Hi all, and welcome to my first Wadster deep dive of 2024. So for those who are new here, what I did last year was I looked into various kind of metrics relating to tennis betting. Actually, I just wanted to create a greater sense of self-awareness in regards to my own betting, finding out what works, what doesn't, and I found out some really key insights on real strengths with my betting and real weaknesses. And I've decided that I think it's about every 1 year is going to be a great kind of sort of time frame, reevaluating and seeing what lessons have I applied correctly. Are there any weaknesses that I'm still not correcting for? Because it's one thing to just be able to interpret the data, but it's another thing to be able to systematically change and to be self-aware enough in the moment to make adjustments on the fly. So I feel that having this kind of yearly analysis is greatly needed, because it's so hard to actually understand your own betting objectively at times, and you need to kind of have that data to step back and have a greater kind of the bird's eye view on what you're doing. And yeah, like what I'm going to be sharing with you has surprised me, because in some senses I thought I was making more changes than perhaps I actually have, which yeah will become evident as I share. And there's still plenty that I need to work on in terms of how I apply the data from the deep dives into my own betting. And I'll just give everyone my thoughts on some of the kind of key summary, what I need to change essentially moving forward. So yeah, let's begin. One of the first things that I looked into when doing my deep dive in 2023 was how I performed at different stages of a tournament. And how I break it down is based on how much I've seen a player at a given event. So the first round would count as either round one, or it might be the second round, but one of the top seeds hasn't played yet. And you often get that at Masters events, for example. They get a bye through the first round, and then you haven't seen them. And my theory behind what I wanted to find out was whether, if I haven't watched a player on the TV or how their game's looking in a given week, would that have an impact on results? Or was it that in round one there's more likely to be extra value because bookies haven't seen the players either? Question marks regarding uncertainty, so it might be easier to anticipate value for a tipster. So yeah, that was the general question that I wanted to answer. And what I found out with my own betting was resoundingly towards the fact that my edge has been a lot stronger the more tennis I've watched on a given week, and my ROI significantly jumped up. And this was true for pretty much every year. The final year before the deep dive was actually minus 22 points. I felt like it was probably more kind of in my mind now that I would be shifting away from round one and more to later rounds, but the data doesn't back that up. And in fact, I'm still leaking a lot in terms of round one. Objectively looking at my data, is the fact that my proportion of round one in relation to my total stake has actually increased. It's gone up to 40%, and my performance on those markets hasn't been good. It's been minus 40 points on round one since the deep dive. I'm going to kind of cover some of the reasons behind that shortly, because a lot of it is leaking from one specific issue rather than it being round one as a blanket avoid. It's certainly disappointing to be at that level of minus for round one given what I found last year, and it just goes to show that certain habits in your betting behavior do become ingrained, and it's very hard to have that self-awareness in the moment to realize exactly how you should be betting in round one unless you have a real systematic approach, which is what I think I'm now going to need moving forward in terms of having very strict criteria with myself. I'll cover that more shortly, but yeah, let's quickly look at the general stats now for all years. In round one now, I've staked 1,051.5 points for minus 68 points, so that's a big leap. Last year, as I said, generally I don't think variance has been on my side, and the performance all round hasn't been great. Yeah, the key to kind of the underperformance generally is the fact I am leaking too many points on round one. Yeah, I'm just about to go into why that's happening and what I need to do to correct it. The first thing I wanted to look into with that is the match winner market, because in 2023 when we looked into that, we saw there was a really big leak in terms of when I was betting on round one and the match winner. I'll just bold it now. We're at minus 53 points of profit, and an ROI of minus 19%. And that was obviously, at the time I said that was a big kind of leakage and that I needed to drain it, sort of thing. But since then I'm still staking too much on that market. Since the deep dive, I'm at minus 36 points for round one in that market for a negative ROI of minus 33%, and overall that means we're now at a minus staggering 90 points for that market, which obviously a lot of it can be negative variance, but it's such a strong trend and slightly crazy trend, to be honest, that making assumptions about players that I shouldn't be making. I'm not factoring in the amount of extra uncertainty there is before I've watched, and what this could relate to is the fact that there are only two markets that are available to send to all my subscribers, and that is the match winner market and potentially the set one winner market, even though that can be lacking liquidity. So I guess it is the area of betting that I'm most focused on, because I can send my tips to the most amount of subscribers, and because there are so many matches in round one, you assume that there are opportunities in that market to be attacked and to send bets to everyone. But what that's meant is that I feel like I'm probably not tailoring my betting enough to my strengths. Taking a few gambles on certain assumptions in round one to maybe, and I do think this is all a kind of an unconscious or subconscious kind of process that's going on. I'm not specifically thinking I want to be betting on the match winner market. I just think it naturally happens more because I get to send the bets to everyone. And something members might have noticed at Wimbledon, which has gone well, is that I have been shifting more away to the Pinnacle markets, sending more in the Pinnacle group, more in the Bet365 group, looking at prices where they're on alternative markets where it's easier for those users to get on those bets, and betting less on the match winner market for the Betfair exchange in those rounds. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Wimbledon's gone well, because I think I'm actually looking at the matches on the Pinnacle markets where I'm looking at all the kind of possible metrics rather than basing my betting on the Betfair exchange. My assumption when looking, and if I'm being honest, these results don't surprise me on the match winner market, because when I look through some of the bets I've been taking, a lot of them have been a bit square. I feel like I've been very average in the match winner market in terms of the bets I'm sending. In terms of my general misreads, I'm misreading a lot more betting on certain players to win in certain price ranges than I am with other markets. So yeah, it's a big leak, and it is one that I've continued to make a big leak on this despite the deep dive. It is yeah, as I covered in previous thoughts, it's definitely difficult to adjust in the moment, but it is at this point where I'm gonna almost have a strict criteria, and I'll kind of provide that in my general summary, where it will be cutting out match winner below 3.5, unless there are always exceptions. If I really feel, oh, that's a great bet, or I feel like there's really positive value on that in round one, then I'll give it a go. But I have to be far more aware now that it is a weakness. It's continued to be a weakness, and it's had a really detrimental effect on my profits. Some more considerations with that as well is that the fact that sometimes I might be betting at sort of like 2.5 odds or 2.8 odds on that round one, and because it's sort of a price range above 2.2, I might be feeling that there's more margin on the bets, so, or that's kind of factoring a bit against uncertainty. But the truth is that's not the case. Even in round one, if I'm taking the 2.21 to 3.47 bets, I'm at an ROI of minus 35% and a profit of minus 78.1 points. It's only actually in round one and above 3.5, which is, it makes the most sense because on those bigger odds I'm probably a bit more uncertain anyway. So if I'm sending them, it's because I feel like they're quite a strong idea. And yeah, so weirdly, despite the fact I'm minus 89 units for round one overall, for the price range of 3.5 plus, I am at a positive 12 points. It does make sense that I could be finding more value in round one on the bigger prices, and I'm betting far too much in that kind of mid to lower odds range. So yeah, that's just something I'm going to cut out. The match winner market as a whole, we are now in overall negative, but when it's beyond the, say, third or fourth round, or when I've seen the players play multiple times and I'm confident of my read, I've actually got a really decent ROI in the match winner market. So overall we're up 45 points, ROI of 20% from the third round onwards, especially when the odds range is a bit higher. I definitely think so. It's up 46 points when it's later rounds and 3.5 plus. So generally it's a market that I do have to adapt more on. I need to stop I do need to kind of adapt my betting, so I'm not focusing as much on the Betfair exchange group. I've got to focus on just generally finding where the value is in the markets I'm strongest at the given time. So that might mean that I cut out a lot of earlier round bets from the Betfair exchange, but it will mean that when I send bets later on in the week on the Betfair exchange, we've got a really strong ROI on those later rounds and plus 3.5 odds on the match winner. There's been some numerous examples actually in the last month alone. Rublev against Alcaraz on the match winner, that was a really good bet at 4.33 odds. Putin Saver against Swiatek, that was a really nice winner at 7.8 odds. Yeah, once I've got a read on a tournament and I'm feeling confident in how I'm feeling about a player winning the match, I can make profit on it. It's just the fact that I'm making too many assumptions in earlier rounds and it's been a big leak. And if you can cut out those big leaks, then there's a lot in the data to suggest that, you know, I can really improve my ROI from where it's at the moment to a considerably higher level, to be honest. So it's all encouraging, even if it is a bit frustrating that I have made a lot of the similar mistakes that I made last year, because I should be more self-aware of it at this point. But yeah, I mean, it can't be more crystal clear now, so I you know, I have to adapt, be changing my process on that, and I'll go into that in a bit as well.